Time now for our weekly Race in America segment with Ashlee Banks. Hi there, Ashlee. What's going on today?
Hey there. So today I'll be discussing the Trump administration's view on immigration here in America. The Trump administration recently announced it will soon aggressively deport immigrant families who have been ordered to leave the U.S. and haven't done so yet. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Interim Director Thomas Homan said, "One thing ICE is in the process of doing is we are going to step up our enforcement of family units that have final orders of removal. They've had their due process. They've been ordered removed by an immigration judge." For years, immigrants have migrated to the U.S. for numerous reasons, including civil unrest, devastation after natural disaster, or because of unstable living conditions. But in the first 2 months of the Trump administration, more than 90% of deportation attempts were against people who hadn't committed a crime, but who were living in this country without required documents, leaving many families divided and some kids without a parent. Juan Cole, a professor of history at the University of Michigan, says it's wrong to take U.S. citizen children away from their mothers and fathers all of a sudden, giving them no time to make alternative arrangements. As for foster homes, with all due respect to the dedicated people who often run them, social science has proven that they are the biggest producer of a criminal class in the U.S. Many argue the Trump administration needs to find more effective ways of dealing with immigration in America. Joining me now to continue this discussion is Gerald Horne, professor of history and African American studies at the University of Houston. Thank you so much for joining me today, Professor Horne. Now, I read an article where the author was comparing the deporting of undocumented immigrants to slave trading. What do you say to that?
I think, unfortunately, there's something to that point. Keep in mind that in the bad old days of the slave trade, the slave traders frequently broke up families. They would take the mother and sell her down the river to Louisiana, take the father and sell him into slavery in Mississippi, take the children and send them into slavery in Missouri. That was not unusual. That was atypical. In fact, it was depicted in the popular television series Roots that came out in the United States some years ago. It's a very unfortunate turn of events. And I should also say that according to the Equal Justice Society of Oakland, California, which is a public interest law firm, at the end of 2017, there were approximately 1,500 children that supposedly should have been under the administration of the U.S. government that were, quote, missing, unquote. That is to say, the government does not know where they are. Given this country's dastardly history of sex trafficking, it would not be beyond imagination to suggest that they may have been ensnared in such a noxious practice as sex trafficking. We need to bring this rapidly to the attention of the U.S. Department of Justice and ICE.
Professor, I want to know, what examples can you give of the state seizing children from their parents to punish or terrorize their parents?
Well, sadly enough, this is not unusual. It's not necessarily peculiar to the United States of America. Recall that in the bad old days of the Argentine junta some decades ago, that junta, that military dictatorship, was known to take the children of leftist dissidents, kill the parents or jail the parents, and then dole out the children to officers in the military junta. In fact, there was an award-winning movie from Argentina called The Official Story that documents that in some grim detail. I think that it is not unknown as well for U.S. nationals to go into Central America, where they buy fundamentally the children, that is to say, adopt the children of families that are in economic and financial distress and bring them back to the United States, oftentimes with shady means. That is to say, the paperwork is not necessarily sound. This is the kind of country that we're living in, which makes it even more important, once again, to press the Department of Justice and ICE with regard to these kinds of practices.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Professor. That was Gerald Horne, professor of history and African American studies at the University of Houston. And that's it for Race in America. Follow me on Twitter at AshleeBanks_RT. Back to you.